In 1913, a shipping clerk in Madras mailed Cambridge a mathematical bomb, and if one professor ignored it, you would never hear his name. The sender was 25, with no university degree behind him, but the 10 pages carried about 120 formulas. So strange that Hardy first wondered whether this was simply a crank. But by evening, Hardy had pulled Littlewood into the room because the results looked impossible, yet too deep to fake. Hardy later said they had to be true because invention alone failed. So the real question becomes this: who was the clerk? And how did one poor boy learn to think beyond Cambridge? He was born in 1887 in Kumbakonam's Temple Lanes, where money was thin, but numbers began crowding his private world. As a teenager, he found one dense book of 5,000 results, and instead of stopping there, he started filling notebooks beyond it. That obsession gave him power. And it also began costing him everything. He failed college exams twice because every other subject felt like noise. So the scholarship disappeared and the genius became a burden at home. To survive, he entered the Madras Port Trust as a clerk, where shipping ledgers paid his salary while scrap paper held his real life. A few local patrons saw the notebooks and they sensed danger. Not danger from failure, but from genius remaining trapped in ledgers. So letters went out to England, and most doors stayed shut until one envelope landed with Hardy and the near miss became history. Hardy's answer changed the clerk's life, but not gently. In 1914, he sailed for Cambridge against caste, custom and comfort, a devout vegetarian crossing cold water toward a world built for others at Trinity. Hardy supplied rigor, while Ramanujan supplied impossible starting points, and between them, the clerk's private language became public mathematics. Here is where the story stops sounding like biography and starts sounding impossible. They studied partitions, meaning ways a whole number splits into smaller sums, and Ramanujan found a way to predict those counts with startling precision. Then came series for pi, so efficient that computers still lean on them, where pi is that endless circle number every schoolchild meets first. But his strangest final objects had an even stranger name: mock theta functions, which looked like familiar patterns, except they refused to behave completely. Recognition finally arrived, but it came while his body was failing. At 30, he entered the Royal Society and Trinity's Fellowship Circle, yet England's winters, illness, and strict food rules kept grinding him down. Then Hardy visited the hospital and mentioned a taxi number 1729. Hardy called it dull, and Ramanujan instantly called it deeply interesting, because it is the smallest number formed by two cube sums twice. A friend said numbers were his personal friends, and now you see why. He returned to India in 1919, still carrying unfinished mathematics home, and the next year, at 32, his life simply ran out. Even then, pages kept coming, as if the mind refused the body. Afterward, some of those pages were bundled away and nearly disappeared again, until 56 years later, a mathematician opened a forgotten Cambridge box. Inside was the lost notebook, carrying the mock theta functions forward. Here is the twist: physics later found those shapes inside black holes, where they helped explain entropy, the hidden counting of a horizon state. So the clerk was not just ahead of Cambridge, he was ahead of science. India now marks his birthday as National Mathematics Day, but the holiday matters because the near miss was real. One professor almost set aside the pages that later changed everything, which means genius sometimes arrives looking like disorder, poverty, and impossibility. So when a strange letter reaches your desk, read it twice.